Welcome to the Triduum, the most sacred days in our church year. My name's Tony Pickler, Mission Outreach Director for Resurrection Parish in Green Bay. As we celebrate Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday, Resurrection Parish is pleased to offer you reflections each day to help you to deepen your experience of these holy days. Building upon the success of last year's Triduum Reflections, we've invited 3 distinguished leaders in our church to provide their thoughts on one of these 3 days. So let's get started. As we begin the sacred Triduum experience with Holy Thursday, we welcome Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau is a distinguished professor of servant leadership at Viterbo University in La Crosse, where he has taught for 39 years. He is the founder of the master's degree in servant leadership at Viterbo, the only master's degree of its kind in the country. Tom is also founder of the Place of Grace, a Catholic worker house in La Crosse that serves and builds relationships with those on the margins in western Wisconsin. Tom is a husband, father, grandfather, teacher, and ambassador for goodness, and lastly, the part owner of a country tavern. Please welcome Tom Thibodeau.
Hello friends, my name is Tom Thibodeau, speaking to you from Viterbo University, where I am with my friend and colleague Emilio Alvarez, and we have created a YouTube channel talking about servant leadership. Today our topic is celebrating Holy Thursday, remembering the meal that changed the world. The Church in her wisdom chooses John's Gospel for Holy Thursday. The other synoptics talk about the breaking of the bread and the sharing of the cup of wine. But John's Gospel talks about the washing of the feet. After supper, Jesus gets up from dinner, puts a towel around his waist, and kneels down and begins washing feet. And you can imagine the surprise in the faces of Philip and Thomas, Judas, who was quizzical and at the same time frightened as Jesus washes his feet as a sign of his love. Peter stands up and said, "You'll never do it for me," kind of calling Jesus out that you cannot serve me. And Jesus says, "If I don't, Peter, it's over." Peter sits down and says, "Not only my feet, but my whole body." And "Just your feet, Peter." He washes all their feet and afterwards puts aside the basin and the towel and says, "You know what I've done? If I, your Lord, have washed your feet, you too are to wash each other's feet. And you are blessed if you do these things. You are blessed if you serve each other." The washing of the feet. How radical and how ordinary. They would have had this done on a regular basis as they entered into someone's house, walking the dusty streets. Having their feet washed after dinner was not unusual, but it was oftentimes very uncomfortable. I've worked in a parish for over 40 years, and one of the most difficult things was to get people to get their feet washed on Holy Thursday, to make themselves vulnerable. Our feet contain the majority of the nerves in our body and are very sensitive. And so the disciples never forget this act of service and great love. Service is love made visible. Jesus gives us the example of what it is to be a servant leader every day. I'm part of a community in La Crosse called the Place of Grace, Catholic Worker House of Hospitality. We've been gathering for 25 years, serving meals to our brothers and sisters of our neighborhood in the streets. Dorothy Day said that Eucharist is breaking bread with broken bodies. And one night, a number of years ago, the house was packed with people. And the house was filled with the warmth of human bodies. And you've been in a house like that where it was so warm within the house that there is moisture on the windows dripping. And we used every dish in the house to serve all of our guests that night. People stayed and they lingered. And once they left, we had planned to have Eucharist. And we sat down at a table that had been used to feed the people of the streets and now had become our altar. We had no altar cloth, just one clean apron that was left. A small plate was brought out. Our friend who was a priest had brought his own chalice. Our friend who was a priest had been washing dishes for the last 3 hours. Not the washing of feet, but the washing of dishes. And when he held his chalice in his hand at the time of consecration, you could see the dimples on the end of his fingers from being in hot water. Isn't it extraordinary, the work of service that we do with human hands? And at the end of the Eucharist, there we were, 10 of us sitting around the table, dead dog tired, exhausted from having broken bread with broken bodies, serving the people of our community to the best of our ability. And one of our members looked up at all of us and said, "I got it. I finally got it. I love all of you. And tonight, I would die for each of you." This is the meal that changed the world. Breaking bread with broken bodies, sharing the presence of Christ, and then living out his example by washing each other's feet in humble, loving service. Holy Thursday reminds us of who and whose we are, reminds us that this truly is the meal that changed the world. God bless you. May you have a blessed Holy Week and a very joyful Easter.